I certainly join with my colleagues in mourning the passing under tragic circumstances of Ambassador Stevens, as well as the deaths of Sean Smith and security officers Tyrone Woods and Glenn Doherty, as well as all those who were injured. I think that all of us can agree that what happened to Ambassador Stevens and the rest of the diplomatic staff should concern everyone, concern all Americans. These attacks were wrong, and it's appropriate that we honor Ambassador Stevens. The resolution, as I read it, is not complete, though, because this discussion that we're having here on the floor is missing some elements, and I'd like to bring them forward right now. We have to ask the question, why was that consulate in Benghazi, Libya, so lightly defended to begin with? Did anyone know that Benghazi was still a flashpoint? I mean, we overthrew the government. Did anyone know that when the government fell, that al-Qaeda's flag was flying over Benghazi? Did anyone know about al-Qaeda's presence in Libya that came after the war? That would have been a constant factor to be mindful of with respect to protecting those who serve. Why wasn't more care given to protect U.S. personnel? And the other thing is, there were warnings in diplomatic circles, specifically with respect to Libya, because of the ferment that was going on, that has been going on in the broader Muslim world. These are concerns that should be discussed by the Congress. Doesn't take away anything from the sacrifice that was given. But we have to ask some questions here. We also have to be aware that U.S. policy in Libya is murky at best and a huge mistake at worst. We had debates on this floor about Libya, and we know that Congress was not consulted. The current issue of Vanity Fair is worth the attention of every member of Congress because it made it abundantly clear on what is a prime constitutional responsibility of Congress. Article 1, Section 8, the power to declare war was essentially usurped by the administration. This is not a small matter. Would we have been in Libya if Congress had had an upfront vote immediately? You know, 2 days ago we celebrated Constitution Day. Are we celebrating the Constitution every day or just one day? There are consequences for not following the Constitution. There are consequences for our citizens here at home and citizens abroad. And this needs to be brought up in the context of this debate. We cannot pretend that United States policy, which often lacks congressional involvement, with drones flying over Yemen and Somalia and Pakistan and Afghanistan and innocents killed, that there's not going to be a blowback or a backlash. It is wrong for any of our people to have their lives on a line where they lose their lives. It's awful. And I stand here today in support of this resolution only because I want to be on record as joining my colleagues on this matter of making sure that we pay tribute to those whose lives were put on the line for this country. But let me tell you, we cannot ignore the deeper question here. Why wasn't that consulate well defended? We cannot ignore the question, why wasn't Congress consulted on the decision to go to war against Libya? There are consequences for these things. The whole country should mourn Ambassador Stevens' death and the deaths of all of those who proudly serve this country, who were taken in this fit of outrage that swept across Libya. But we need to remember a few other things, too, about how we got there and why those people who put their lives on a line to serve, why their lives were put in jeopardy. I reserve the balance of my time.
As time has expired.